AD.
Let's go, baby.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome to 2018 and episode 306 of the KBMOD podcast. Is
Woo! I'm
KD
just trying to make that
still
festive.
excited from New Year's? He
Happy New
just
Year,
had to let
everybody.
it out.
Merry Christmas. Isn't it? Doesn't feel so weird to say Merry Christmas now, but to our viewer or listener, there's been this huge gap.
That's true.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry
Happy New Year.
Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and welcome to 2018. It's January 7th of this new year, and I'm joined by KD and Yingity Yang.
Hello.
We have
Go.
we've been off for a couple weeks because Christmas Eve and then New Year's Eve fell on a Sunday evening. So, it was just people traveling and everything, just logistics get in the way of doing a weekly podcast during the
Right.
holidays. So I was gone for a few weeks because the week before that was the Twitch holiday party. So it's been a little while for me, close to a month since I've been on the podcast as I look back at the calendar. But,
You're back, baby. You're
I'm
back
back.
and you're informed.
I'm back. I listened to the episode while I was gone. You guys held it together. So,
That's very generous of you.
yeah, well, we're entering 2018 with a fresh slate. So that was you had a big task to end 2017 by yourselves, but you got us here. So,
Well, thank you.
so we gotta talk about what have we been doing over the holidays.
Oh, real quick, if you're wondering where APL is,
Oh yeah,
he's
we
got a
should
little
talk about
bit
that
of
first.
stuff to worry about.
First of all, yeah, let's talk about what Scott has been doing. So, a
Yes.
synopsis of Scott's holiday, as I understand it, is his baby was supposed to be born on Christmas. It was not. And then days went by. Baby's still not born. My understanding, I'm guessing, it's probably pretty nerve-wracking, like every day after the expected due date of a child. And it turns out that baby decided to stay in the womb for another almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But Scott and Tabitha's child was born yesterday, I think.
Yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah. So Scott is not here. He has the best excuse he has ever had for not being on the podcast. So please do send him your congratulations. He is a new father. Looks like Delaney is healthy and happy, and hope for the best for them. Once they get to take her home pretty soon. So Scott is AFK for a bit, but really happy for him and Tabitha. And yeah, give him all your congratulations on a healthy baby. So I imagine that probably preoccupied everything Scott was doing. So you've been filled in for Scott. He might as well be here. But
Definitely.
what have you guys been doing over the break? How was your? I don't know if you both were on vacation at all. I was on a little vacation, so I got some relaxing in. But what about you guys?
Well, I was on the opposite of vacation. I actually ended up working through most of the holidays, and my vacation started yesterday. So I'm on vacation
Whoa.
for 9 days now. So
Oh, you're on alt vacation.
I'm on
Wow.
an ultimate vacation because I have all
Nice.
these holidays stacked up from working this break. But so I mean, it was a busy season. This is my first time working the holiday season at the museum, and my impression was that we were going to be very quiet. I don't know. Maybe you guys have some opinions on this. I wouldn't imagine going to a museum to be a very popular activity between Christmas and New Year's, but that is maybe one of the busiest times I have ever been on the gallery floor.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it was like nonstop, exhausting, and just it caught me by surprise. And I guess that's a very popular family activity, which is, I mean, I guess I'm glad to hear that. Now, the more I think about it, I guess a museum would be a fun place to go with your
think it's
family
that
if you had like
people
maybe
are-
extended family visiting.
I think it's just that people are looking for things to do, because if people have time off, you're just kind of sitting around at home, and there's only
Right.
so much football you can watch. There's only so much food you can eat, and so
And
I
relatives
imagine-
are over too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I imagine at some point you suggest, hey, let's get out of the house for a little bit and go to the museum.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so. So I'll have to get back to you on what happened on my vacation because it started officially yesterday.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's pretty awesome though. You work through the holidays, but then you get to ring in the new year the right way with some time
Exactly.
off.
9 days.
Yeah,
9
that's
days.
a healthy vacation. Do you have anything planned? You just just chilling?
No, actually, I mean, in a sense, I had something planned. I planned to do nothing. I'm trying to I really like the idea of just not having a schedule for the next 9 days. So I haven't planned anything out. I'm going to do whatever I want. I might make a trip up, visit my parents at some point, but I don't know. It's been a long time since I've not had something pressing to do every day.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get myself back into a state of slowing things down because it's a weird thing to try to go to bed and I feel like I constantly forgot to set my alarm. Is where I'm at right now. So basically just trying to decompress from working the holidays and then everything before that.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
What about you, KD?
Pretty much same here. I've been having to work. I mean, I know I'm going to sound like Ying 2.0, or actually no, Ying 0.5, because I'm on a far lower level.
Well, no, but you do have some very big museum-oriented news.
I do?
You do. Katie, of course you do.
I mean, I was just going to talk about, working at the Winter Lights. What did you have in mind, Ying? I gotta know. Am I missing something crucial?
Yeah, I would say the conditions upon which you were working at the museum have changed.
Oh yeah, that's true, baby.
Your terms of employment are now different.
I'll be honest, I really was not going to mention that, but that is pretty important to talk about. Thank you. I actually so up until now, I've been hired on as a seasonal position at where I work, and I ended up making it through to a permanent employee for Gallery Guide. So pretty happy with that. It's a weird feeling, you feel happy, but you go in and oh, my friend Jake is gone. Oh, Victoria's gone. Oh. And
I was going to say, is there like a culling at the end of the seasonal time? Yeah,
because and this is really tragic, but for me, like mentally, so there's how did it work out? There were 2 days that I was working. I get an email saying an email that went out to all of the seasonal hires that said, as stated during the hiring process, you've been hired on to work until this date, and which is the 7th. And if we plan to keep you any longer, you'll be notified no later than the 5th. All right, so it's the what would it be? It would be the 4th, and I work that morning, and I oversleep. I criminally oversleep. Like I'm talking, I'm supposed to be there at 10:23. I wake up at 10:29. And
oh boy!
You're the one that got hired on.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, okay, he already left. There's no possible way I can Uber. Maybe I'll Uber. I can't take the bus. Of course not. Like I'm gonna be far too late. So I'm thinking about Ubering. I call in, let them know I'm gonna be late, and they're like, you know what? Just don't bother coming in today. Ooh. And I'm like, ooh,
oh boy,
oh my chest. And I'm freaking out. And then like maybe 10 minutes later, my friend Jake tells me who also works there, he tells me that he got the email letting him go. And I'm full freaking out. And I'm, dreading it. But then things start slowly looking up. I'm remembering, I look at myself compared to some other seasonal hires. I'm like, come on, make the smart choice. But that doesn't mean anything. That's just my personal thing. I had because my brother actually works at the cafe at the museum. And everybody knows him because he sees everybody, working at the counter. And he serves like one of the heads of security. And one of the heads of security was talking to me, and he's like, I'm really glad he brought you to us. And that really meant a lot to me. So I'm thinking, he said that to me. He can't say that and then not take me on full time. And then I get an email later that day that's like, it's saying, we're issuing out a second shirt to all of our hires. So if you make sure you stop by. I'm like, okay, why would they send me this if they're letting go? I open up and I have 2 monitors. One has the email to the seasonal hires. One has the email to everybody. And I'm like cross-referencing recipients. And I'm noticing that some seasonal hires are gone from that email. So I'm like, okay, things are looking up. And then I officially, within like the next day, I get the email hiring me on. So huge weight off my shoulders. And
That's
Yeah,
quite
you
a
really
saga.
went like internet detective on that one to try to
yeah,
figure
I
out.
had to, dude. I was freaking out. You can
No,
only
that's
play so much.
understandable.
Yeah, you can only play so much League of Legends before your mind starts to just break and worry too much. I tried
I
streaming
love that
day,
you
but
you decided to play life on hard mode and like be late for work during a
oh
pivotal
my
time
God.
when they were
I
hiring
know,
on
it's
people full time.
It's because like I didn't have. Go ahead.
Your on-the-job performance must be stellar
Oh yeah, I'm a
Uh,
killer.
if that kind of timing occurred to you and they still took you on.
Yeah, it's because I didn't do any laundry the day before, and so I stayed up until like 2:30 doing laundry, and I have no excuse, but it's all over. I'm on. Think life is good, you know. So, and then but I did have to work, you know, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, uh, only doing the evening shift for Christmas Day, which was the Winter Lights exhibit we have going on, which is like it ended tonight. Actually, it was like 1 million Christmas lights. I think I talked about this before, but it's actually been taking off like extremely well, like stupid well. Like you go out there and it's cool. The atmosphere is cool. There really aren't that many like lights going on, but I mean there are, but it's not like jaw dropping. But it's a really cool time. It's a fun time. But I'm hearing like they estimated 35,000 tickets sold. They reached about 70,000 by the end of the event. We're getting into articles in like NBC talking about like the top 3 attractions in the United States. One of them being Winter Lights, and like one of the top 25 of the world to visit for the holiday.
Really? Wow.
And yeah, it was it was just crazy because like, why is this doing so well? We're thinking it must be, you know, the atmosphere. Like 90% of the people that go there talk about, you know, their experiences with the guides and how friendly the staff is. So I mean, I guess that's just what people enjoyed out of it. I mean, but it was just cool. It was cool that it was that successful.
So you have a pretty high bar to live up to now that you're there for good.
Yeah, I actually,
after all this press, I mean, people are going to come in with real high expectations.
I'm here to see that David boy that I read about in the newspaper. Is he here? He's like, no, he's late. He shit. But no, it's been a pretty, you know, pretty chill. Other than that, pun completely intended. I'm sorry. What have you boys gotten for Christmas? If you know, just a casual segue there. Anything noteworthy?
Well, my parents were I just did Christmas with my parents, and they were traveling in Asia right up to Christmas Eve. So they actually flew in from Hong Kong and got back to Canada around 10 p.m. my time on Christmas Eve. And so we had like our Christmas celebration at like 2 a.m. Christmas Day because they're coming back from a 13-hour time difference, and I'm used to staying up late anyways. It was sort of we did sort of like a small Christmas deal, so nothing too exciting, but they brought back a bunch of like shirts and ties and souvenirs from Hong Kong, which were really nice. They go to this high class store that's in Hong Kong, and it was mostly like nothing big. It was just kind of like things that were nice to have. I unfortunately Hardballer's not here. I did get 3 very lovely pairs of socks.
Yes. Yes.
I was going to say we got a viewer question asking that specifically. Who got socks?
I'm glad because I'm to the day I'm taken aback about how upset Hardballer was that I feel socks are not only a satisfactory gift but an excellent one. Like I am happy to get socks every Christmas.
Yeah, that was a very strange moment of the KBMOD career. Is the whole sequence of that Twitter question.
But no, we didn't do like a really big gifts exchange. I got my parents a couple of new pieces, or like I guess pieces of decoration for their dream home. They recently moved into their dream waterfront home a few months ago, so they were missing a couple of things that I know my parents like, basically just in terms of like art and blankets and things like that. So that's what I got for them, and then I don't know. It was just nice to see them because I had to head back basically right after Christmas, so it was more so catching up with them very quickly and then heading back to work.
Yeah, I think I got 1 pair of socks. I was okay with it, but yeah, I listened to the last episode. I was certainly surprised there was that much vigor around the 4th item. Like that's generally the item that you're like, yeah, fine, if I get it, great. If not, whatever. right?
Yeah,
I
Hardballer's
don't.
answer was like, I think a pet rabbit or something. He listed like three very expensive firearms and
I
then
was gonna say, yeah, it's like
rabbit.
who does he have buying him gifts where
Yeah,
like all the top of his Christmas list is just like firearms that are easily in the hundreds of dollars, if not thousands. It's like I generally don't ask for stuff like that because I don't expect people to get me something that expensive, and I'd probably be uncomfortable if they did.
Yeah.
right.
So I get the expensive stuff myself, and that's actually I never really have as an adult. I feel like I don't ever have a long Christmas list. Like my parents ask me what I want for Christmas, and I'm
Mm.
just like I don't know. Like I'm gonna come home and see people. Don't get me anything that I can't easily put in my suitcase. That's already got stuff in it. Like maybe get me something small, or I don't know, gift card or whatever. Just if we have to do this, just get me something small.
Gotcha.
But this year I actually I had like kind of a last minute gift that I was excited about. I was like, this is perfect. I asked for a Raspberry Pi, and there were like,
Ooh.
because Raspberry Pis are like $40. I was like,
Yeah.
that's perfect. It's a gift I'll enjoy, but it's not expensive. And so the thing is, I had to tell my mom pretty much exactly what to get because you have to get like the Raspberry Pi, but then you also probably want to get like a little case and like the power
Yeah.
cord and stuff.
The
And
cable.
and I also needed an SD card reader and an SD card. So like
Right.
I basically gave her an Amazon wish list, and I was like, these are the things. I was like, all of these have to go together. So I was like, I don't mean to put a too fine a point on it, but like if you're gonna get them, you have to get all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
getting me these in pieces is not gonna work.
Are you going to make it a retro pie?
Uh, so that was the thing is like I decided to get one or to ask for one, and so my parents got me that, and I just started messing around with it while I was at my parents' house and seeing what I wanted to do with it. And one of the things that I settled on was this home automation software, like open source home automation software. I've kind of been going deep down that rabbit hole recently,
Oh, okay.
and so that's one of them. But I was having so much fun with it. I was like, oh man, I need a second one to play with. If I'm gonna have a certain piece of software on this one, I gotta have
Right.
another one. So I ended up before I even left and came back home, I had ordered a second one to be delivered here. So
Oh,
I now
cool.
have two Raspberry Pis, and I may do a retro Pi, but I'm not a huge retro gamer. Like just because I don't when I have time to play games, I have so much stuff to play already that
Right. Yeah.
it's not retro games are just like not the thing that I will probably spend my time on. But
Gotcha.
but anyway, so yeah, I've messed around with the Raspberry Pi a whole bunch, and that's been fun. And
That's
that was
pretty
like,
cool.
yeah,
I don't know if it was I was talking to Reddish Blue at Pittsburgh on like Raspberry Pis. I don't know if it was him or one of his friends, but someone had like Raspberry Pis around their entire house, like for lights and like curtains opening and closing. So like I
yeah.
don't know if like
There's a lot you can do with them because it's pretty much just a little Linux box, and it doesn't take up much power, doesn't take up any space. So it's kind of like the world is your oyster if you want to hack on it.
right,
Um,
exactly.
and so yeah, I've sort of looked around for different projects and found this home automation one and kind of went into that. And yeah, so I have a second one that I'm kind of trying to see what I want to do with. But that's been fun. So I was like tinkering with that stuff a fair bit over the holidays, and got some other stuff. Of course, got like a coffee grinder because I've been
Ooh.
slowly. I got a new coffee machine from Hillary for Christmas, and I want to get more into like making good coffee because I don't
Mm,
drink like a ton of coffee, but I'll have maybe a cup a day in the afternoons and
Okay.
stuff. And so when I make coffee at home, it's normally just on the weekends, and I have like one cup. I was like, maybe I should get a little more serious about making actual good coffee instead of like the garbage Keurig stuff that I normally drink. So I decided to ask for a coffee grinder and actually get beans instead of the pre-ground coffee and all that. So I'm definitely not I'm not like a coffee snob, but I thought I'll try it out. I'll try and get a little more serious about it. And so far it's been pretty good. Like I can taste a little bit of a difference, and I don't drink enough coffee where it's like really bothersome to have to do my own grinding and all that. so it makes it a little bit more of a project. But yeah, had some good time off. Just getting back into the swing of things at work and all that. It's 2018, so everything keeps going.
Yeah. Had a good Christmas also. My sister came up from Florida, which she only does like pretty much twice a year. So it was good seeing her. And that made it pretty much a house of 6 people celebrating Christmas. And we're the kind of people that go for like quantity over quality. So it was just and I'm not trying to brag at all or like sound, materialistic or anything, but it was just a stupid amount of presents under the tree when we all got up. It was just like, because we all went above and beyond, like for everybody, like we all just spent way too much money. So like it got to the point where we're all opening presents, and it's not like, huge big baller money presents, but we're all like, guys, we actually got to hurry this up. It's been 3 hours and we still have presents to open. But yeah, so it was fun. I got the main thing that I got was a piano or a keyboard, basically.
Nice.
Because that's something I've wanted to kind of put some time into, because I played the cello for a bit in middle school, and I've always been really like musically inclined. But and I love the piano, but I've never really like had access to one. So it's just one of those
some creative streams.
I think that'd be under, if Twitch had a cringe category, then it'd be under there, or cringe category. But I mean, we'll see. I'm not really confident with where I am. Like, I can't even read sheet music. I mean, I could a long time ago, but not anymore. So there's a lot of relearning. I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
Okay. But just everyone has different ways of hitting it big. Maybe you're the next big music streamer.
Watch this guy. He's so bad at piano, but I can't stop watching.
I mean, we already know you got bars, so you could be the whole package with some practice.
Yeah,
you could do like live anime dubbing.
Yeah,
that is actually something I do want to do. Like I want to fan dub stuff, because I think being a voice actor is cool. Anyways, that's really off topic.
But what have anything we've been eating that's noteworthy? Because we've been gone a few weeks, and we obviously had the holidays, so there's typically some pretty juicy meals around the holidays.
Well, like I said, I didn't spend too long at my parents' house to do anything too special. But what I had been doing is this vacation that I'm just starting. One of the things I wanted to do is try to get more familiar with sort of the local markets that are in my immediate area, because I live in sort of the downtown core. And the first thing I found out, I didn't find this out, I knew this ahead of time, but the city that I live in has a relatively deep set German history. And so a lot of the smaller restaurants and food markets that you'll find around are German cuisine. And so while I was out, there was a very small vendor selling bratwurst. And I realized that I don't think I've ever actually eaten bratwurst before.
Really?
And so I bought like a package, and it was, you take it home, you cook it. It wasn't like he was cooking it on the street. But I realized like I don't really know anything about it. I don't know how you're supposed to cook it. And so I went online and found out you're supposed to cook it with there's 2 different ways you need to cook it, and then you're cooking it with ale, and you need to simmer it for a certain amount of time. And I was like, well, now I already bought the dang thing, so I might as well do the whole thing now. And so I did everything. You're supposed to sear it and then simmer it, and then simmer it with ale. And it was delicious. It was fantastic. It was my first time ever actually eating bratwurst, and it was very good. I think that's actually what stands out more than anything for me right now.
That's awesome. And you made it yourself.
And I made it myself, I was worried about how I was going to go, because the instructions that you find anywhere you look up how to cook bratwurst are very specific, and it seems like there's this high bar that you have to meet in order to make good bratwurst. But it was definitely an experience, and I'm definitely going to do it again. It was very good. It was a lot of work, but it was good.
Yeah, that sounds like, it's good to have one good solid home cooked meal during the holidays, and especially if that was your first time having it and you made it yourself. That's pretty awesome. AD, any interesting meals over the holidays?
Well, there are specific meals that my sister loves that my dad is an excellent cook, so he always makes a point to like try and make as much as what she likes as he can, which works out for me because it's all just delicious food. So like, I mean, let me think. There's like this beef and noodles that he makes is really good. He did make country fried steak, which is normally delicious, but I was working that night, so I was going to have it when I got home. Come to find out, everyone that had that country fried steak was like in the bathroom and had like really bad diarrhea, and like they think it might have been like food poisoned, possibly. Like they weren't like sick or anything, but it was very heartbreaking because I mean, and for a minute I was like, do I really want to? I mean, it's country fried steak, baby. I mean, I can.
Like,
what if I chew
want to take that
back
chance?
Yeah, yeah, I ended up not doing it, but just mainly all around pretty good food.
Nice.
Over the holidays, so yeah, I'm very thankful.
Yeah, we had some really good food. We did have prime rib again for like after Christmas, I think like Boxing Day or thereabouts, and made some more homemade horseradish. It was fantastic. Had a good amount of tamales. So that's kind of a southern Texas sort of thing you have around the holidays. So I had a lot of tamales, had some chili, had some Hoppin' John, which I don't know if people know what that is, but it's like black-eyed peas and rice and ham, kind of all mixed together. I love having that, so I had that. Basically, that's like all I eat from probably the 28th to the 1st of the year. Pretty much every meal is that.
Okay.
So I had some really good food, and then had to you have to come back down to reality. Like a lot of the food is pretty rich, and I'm not like really getting any exercise over the holidays, so it was nice. But I came back like wanting to put myself on a diet because I just felt you kind of feel more bloated. I had like a bunch of stuff that has a lot of salt in it, so getting back on that horse now. But yeah, so many good meals over Christmas.
Awesome. Cool.
And that takes us into what we've been playing. I don't know if Ying maybe hasn't had a ton of time if he's been working, but what about you, KD? Have you I mean, we'll get to Ying too. I didn't mean to sound dismissive. Maybe Ying's been playing games like crazy.
It's cool, but no, fuck that guy. KD.
What did either of you play to finish out 2017?
I'm gonna toss this KBMOD question ball. I'm gonna popcorn Ying.
Okay.
Take this, baby.
All right. Contrary to very recent suggestions, I actually have been playing quite a few new games.
Okay.
The last purchase that I made before we turned over the new year was I bought it's I'll get into it, but it's not a great game. But I've been curious about it for such a long time. I played the beta and I had a great time with it. I knew it was going to be a dead game for several reasons, but I picked it up on sale.
Oh, I saw you playing this.
I picked it up on sale because I knew I was going to have at least a little bit of fun with it. I have been playing For Honor.
Ooh.
Okay.
In case anyone forgot about that game, not only is that totally understandable.
Yeah, gotta jog my memory for that one.
Yeah, I would love to hear your hot take on this.
For Honor, I remember seeing this announced, what was like maybe 2 or 3 years ago at E3.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked pretty good. It looked like it was going to be like a new take on sort of the melee combat fighting system. The game looked gorgeous. The animations looked very interesting. Sort of like this fantasy knights versus samurai versus Vikings kind of deal. They did like a closed beta and then an open beta, and honestly, they were both a lot of fun, but people were pretty skeptical about the game for 2 big reasons. One, in that they didn't really see a lot of incentive to keep playing the game, beyond the fact that it was mostly multiplayer, and there were concerns about how they're going to keep the multiplayer fresh and interesting. And it's on the infamous peer-to-peer connection for multiplayer, which provides a lot of issues for making sure that 2 or more players are actually in sync with one another, as far as what they're seeing gameplay wise, which poses a big problem. So even though I picked it up on sale and I wouldn't recommend buying it, I do think the fighting system in For Honor is a lot of fun. I like the way that they sort of made the timing-based interaction with other players, how you lead into combos, how you interrupt combos. It's sort of like pretty basic, I guess, if you're used to fighting games, but it looks good and it's fun if you're not hardcore into fighting games. The problem comes in that with this peer-to-peer connection, because there's notable lag between you and your opponent, that's a huge problem for a game that depends on you clicking the right button at the exact right time when your opponent does something. And first you're thinking, like, maybe it's not that bad, right? Like, maybe it's not so noticeable that this makes the game unplayable. I'm talking about, you will see your opponent start an animation and you will take damage before the animation actually finishes.
No.
So you can't actually prevent some attacks because they will, on the other person's end, they will have already finished by the time you even realize what they're doing. And so the difference between playing offline and like playing against a bot, which to fair play against Ubisoft, I guess they actually did manage to make the bots somewhat difficult. But the idea of playing against the bot and how different the timing feels playing offline versus online is spectacular. Like, it's unacceptable, like how terrible this game is to play online.
Really?
Specifically because you're supposed to be so pinpoint with all of your timing in terms of like blocking and parrying and counterattacking. And when it's offline, it feels great. But the moment you're online, all of those mechanics that this poor dev team worked so hard to perfect don't matter because you can't actually see what your opponent is doing in real time.
That's too bad. That's that juicy Ubisoft netcode, baby.
Oh, goodness. And like you really would think it's not that bad, right? Like, how bad could this connection really be? The instant you log into an online game, you will get hit by someone's sword before you actually see it happening on the screen. And so you can't interrupt or block it. I mean,
oh my God.
You'll get some games where it feels fine. I've also had games where I know that I have a connection advantage because this other person isn't blocking anything. And I know it's because they can't see what I'm doing in time.
That's brutal.
I was having a chat with someone about this game last week, and I'm not quite sure. Someone will have to verify, but I heard that Ubisoft was just now looking into getting the game dedicated servers, which is like, man, way too little, way too late.
Yeah, a little bit.
Surprisingly, I haven't had an issue finding a game online. I don't think I've waited in queue for more than like maybe 40 seconds to actually get into a match.
I think
so
the player base
dead.
is still, I mean, they still have a player base. I think it's just probably, it looked like it could be a big game. And I think now it's fallen off quite a bit to where it's probably, they probably still have maybe a few thousand. But for how many copies they sold, you know, they really had an opportunity. And I think they squandered it for a lot of reasons. But like that netcode feels like a big one. That like the meta would come down. The meta would come down to just like connection advantage, and you can't really dig into a game like that. And that skill ceiling is going to always be governed by just connection, which sucks.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the problem too, because there's that whole issue with the netcode creates this atmosphere in the game where it sort of invalidates anything that anyone does in terms of how good they are at the game. Like, I don't know, did I actually beat this person, or did I just have a good connection? Did I actually lose that match, or was I just lagging around? It's hard to say.
Right.
Which is too bad, because I will still stand by the notion that the fighting system is still fun. If you're into fighting games, it's going to feel very rudimentary to you and very basic. The fighting is very animation heavy. It's meant to be flashy instead of technical. But nonetheless, there is like some combos you can learn. There's each character has its own very unique playstyle. I would say there aren't any. There's like, I think there's maybe 12 heroes, and each one plays respectively different from any other hero. Which is it, and it's almost like, it kind of makes me sad to talk about it, because there are some parts of the game that I do really like about it. But I mean, if you can't pick up this game on sale, like I paid 30 Canadian, so you're talking about like what, 23, 24 American. I don't even know if I'd recommend it at that point. There's just not, like, I'm getting the amount of time that I do right now out of it just because I am able to give myself the enjoyment out of how the fighting system works. But I think for the average person, I don't even know if it's really worth picking up. They do have a campaign single player in there too.
What? They do?
Yeah, they do. And it's not, it's still not worth it. It's not going to save the game at all. But it was all right. They made it a little difficult. The story was a little bit uninspired, but whatever. It made me spend like 6 hours in the game.
Was it just was it original content, or were you just playing like multiplayer games with
No, it was original content. They were actually like story missions. And like, pretty much anything you were doing in that game had a narrative to it, which was nice, because I know a lot of people were worried that it was just going to be like, it was going to be the multiplayer game modes, but with like a story loosely traced around it. But no, they actually, it's unique level design for all of it.
Okay, that's good.
But outside of that, I've also been playing They Are Billions.
Oh, tell me about this. Tell me about this, because I've been thinking about getting it, because it seems like the type of RTS that is exactly up my alley. It's like, I always enjoyed just like turtling in single player and playing like comp stomp matches in the RTSs I used to play, and this seems like that's basically that. So I've been watching it, thinking if I should buy it.
Yeah, if you play RTSs and you are used to the idea of just stacking defense upon defense upon defense, and you take pride in securing like a part of the map, and you're really dedicated to that kind of thing, it's literally the game. It's, I guess the best way to describe it, it's sort of like a survival RTS. It's a very basic, like if you think about any kind of city or civilization builder, you have buildings you need to place around certain spots in the map to gather resources, and you have a population you got to take care of. The whole twist on it is that it's set in sort of this post-apocalyptic zombie-infested area. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to build up this colony that can sustain itself, but also survive these massive hordes of zombies that will every now and then want to basically destroy any building that you've erected. And you are doing that for a certain amount of time. It depends on the difficulties you select. But at the end of the game, on the final day, however long your game length was, it will send a massive zombie horde from every direction that will just like lay this relentless assault on the walls of your colony until either you've managed to weather this assault or they've broken through and they infect your entire colony. So the end result is just you basically spending 150 days in game trying to build this colony as fast as you can to gather resources so you can build just seemingly like ridiculous amounts of defense. Because my first experience with the game was I actually didn't know that the end of the game was this big final horde. I thought that this was just sort of like go for as long as you can kind of deal. But while you're building, there are like large hordes that come by. Like it's not just the one final one. There will be like large hordes throughout the game. And so I had what I consider to be a very respectable defense. Those large hordes that were being sent by were not really getting anywhere near my command center, which is where all the zombies are trying to destroy. The art style of the game is pretty basic. It's not very graphics heavy. I would imagine most systems can run this with no issue whatsoever. And the reason I mention that is because I'm on an i7 4770 and a GTX 970, and of course the game runs butter smooth, no issues whatsoever.
Nice.
But then your advisor pops up in the corner for that final wave, and he says, "Sir, there's a huge wave of zombies coming from every direction. They are billions." And then it'll do like an hour countdown before this final wave starts.
Oh man, that's cool.
And once that hour ticked over, I'm not kidding you, I dropped well below 30 frames. And I knew it was going to be rough from that exact moment. It was like, oh, this is not going to go well.
That's
like,
such
I had two layers of like these stone walls with like all these like machine guns set up on them. Like I felt pretty secure. And I'm telling you, I got nowhere close to surviving that wave. They busted through every little single piece of defense that I had in there. Like, if you want to survive in this game, you have to go, like, your number one concern is gathering resources in order to build defenses. Like, the fact that you can build houses for colonists, or you can set up research stations, like that's all very tertiary, because it all needs to be focused on you building as much defense as possible, preparing for this final wave. because even though I think I maybe held out against that last wave for about a minute and a half, and in that time there's just like a constant stream of infected bashing against your defenses. In the minute and a half that it took for them to get into my command center and destroy it, I still did not see the end of that wave. Like, they were still coming in from the grayed out zones that I couldn't see. So like, they really gave it the feeling of like there are literally billions of these infected coming to destroy your colony.
That's really cool.
What difficulty were you playing?
I was playing, so they do it by percentage.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can bring it up to 800% or something like that, which is ridiculous. But I was playing at 55%, which is twice the difficulty you need to unlock the next map.
Okay.
So I was doing it like, I think I had 120 days to build my defenses. The map that I was building, it had a medium population. So like, the population determines how many zombies there are spawned in the map already. So I was playing at a medium one, so there was like a fair amount of zombies spawned around. And I mean, I just stood no chance. Like, I got to the final wave, but that final wave just ramps up so much that it made me realize that if you're going to play this game, you have to, from day one, be focused on building defense and basically expanding colonists and food and every other resource by necessity in order to support those defenses.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so
hearing you talk about it,
I've had a.
Yeah, hearing you talk about it, I feel like I've got to pick it up.
Yeah, it's the first RTS in a while, because like, I'm the same way. I do really enjoy RTSs. This is the first one that has actively stumped me. Like, even Anno is a difficult like civ builder and RTS, but you can get the hang of it and you sort of know how you're supposed to handle that situation. The map in They Are Billions is always different. Like, how you need to plan your defenses in your colony is always different. Like, going into a new map feels like a new challenge every single time, and it's sort of anxiety inducing, because with every day that passes by, you know that you're closer to that final horde that is going to be, like, no matter what you do, is going to be ridiculous to try to stop.
Yeah, that sounds super fun.
Yeah, I'm looking at gameplay of it now. It's just on the store page. Like, I'm looking at that GIF that has the people with the flamethrowers, and oh my god.
I mean, like, you're like researching tech to try to like get new units that are better at killing zombies, and you're building towers and all these kinds of defenses that are supposed to work in conjunction with one another. And I've tried like different kinds of defenses where like you're trying to build walls that don't have defenses just so you can buy yourself more time. The zombies will get stuck on them for at least a little bit, and it's I have yet to win a game. I have yet to win a game of They Are Billions.
Really? Wow.
Sounds real fun. How long? You said it was 150 end-game days. How much like days. Real time?
I think a day is supposed to last. I want to say like maybe. I'm going to take a really wild. I could be completely incorrect, but I want to say it's anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes. I know that's a pretty big gap, but
okay.
I honestly, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I think the days are shorter than that. I've watched some streams, and I think if you don't pause it, you can pause the game, and like, you know, you can think about your defenses or whatever. But I think if you don't pause it, I think it's closer to like a minute or two.
Okay,
gotcha.
At least from what I was seeing.
And then very, very quickly, because I've been talking for a while, I got back into World of Warcraft. Not live. I've been playing on a private server, and I spent all day today playing Diablo 3.
Nice.
I bought Reaper of Souls, and I've been playing as a Crusader, and I've been enjoying it. I've been having fun with it. I enjoy the feel of that game. Yeah, I'm playing through the campaign right now. I just finished the main, like the base storyline, and I've just started the Reaper of Souls acts.
Awesome. Well, cool. Once you finish the storyline, we'll have to play some seasonal.
Yeah. I have to say, I know a lot of people, at least from what I've heard, don't really care about the storyline in Diablo, but I really enjoy the feeling of that world, like how they do the angels and the demons and how humanity came to be. Like, I think it's a pretty cool storyline.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good story. I think people had crazy expectations for the story, and I feel like that, like once the original story plus Reaper, like I think it's a pretty good story for a Diablo game.
Yeah. Yeah,
well, cool.
It's just been a new experience for me, and I'm enjoying it.
That's great.
Cool.
Well, that's pretty varied. What about you, Katie?
Awesome. I played way too fucking much. I played way too much this
Well,
fast.
let's hear the highlights or the lowlights, as it were.
Okay. I'll try to go as quickly as possible. So I finished Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. That game was awesome and really worth the.
I saw your absolutely glowing review of that game on Steam.
Yeah, that game is really like you can really appreciate certain games for really setting themselves apart and being unique. Like Hellblade is absolutely that. Like the studio that made it, well, that also made DMC and like Heavenly Sword or Enslaved, who has kind of really been under the radar. This game has really solidified them as a dev to like look out for, because like they just killed it with this game. And like after I finished it, they actually include a video that's about like half an hour like documentary in the game about the making of it and the research into like. I definitely think it's the most innovative game of the year because of how they use like sound design to like imitate the voices in her head. That is just genuinely uncomfortable. Like there were plenty of times like I'll be playing it, I'm like, will you people please shut up? And it's just like there's an option in the like audio to like change the volume of the voices. And I mean, I guess if you really wanted to, you could turn the voices down, but like no, this is the experience. You gotta keep it on. And it was really real storytelling. The ending was just like I have no idea what to make of it, but it was really worth my time. It was about, I'd say like 7 hours of game time. Okay. And yeah, that was a really good experience. I really tried to finish Hob. I sat down and played that game. That game is just because Runic Games' last game, I want to see what it's about. That game is so baffling how a game can have incredible level design, but it has some of the.
I heard you talking about this. I really want you to describe how this came to be, because I saw you tweeting about it, and you were talking about you were praising to high heaven the level design.
Yeah,
so
it's
what brings it down for you then? Because
So you've got really great level design, but really bad game design. Because you go through the levels and it's everything you can tell has been painstakingly crafted over however many years they took making this game. Because the huge like draw of the game is changing the world around you, how everything fits together. And it's just it's jaw dropping sometimes how like they've come up with this. But then when you go back to the gameplay, it amounts to like it's platforming in the sense that you run to this place, hit a switch, watch everything change, run over here. You have combat. This is a like I don't know if I call it a puzzle game, because there really aren't any puzzles. You just hit switches and change the world. I wouldn't call it an action game because the action is so sparse and the combat is so weak, and there are so few enemy types. And every enemy type has the most predictable, like luckily two different actions that they'll be able to do. You can, the tall enemies, you kind of break the game if you have them next to a wall, because every single attack they rev up, they'll just clank against the wall and just be stuck in that animation. And it's the story, they tried going for, no spoken word. The story is entirely through cutscenes and the world around you. That would be cool if the story was actually like interesting, or if like the story was designed around something like that. Like there are literally cutscenes where you can tell that they were really struggling to tell this story like without any spoken word. It's not like other games, like literally they'll have like a character go like whoa 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 and like the fake language, or not even a language, they're just mumbling, and they'll wave their hands around, they're like gesturing. It's like, I'm really trying to tell you this plot, but I'm just gonna point and gesture at stuff like they're trying to communicate with you, but they can't because they won't let them. And so I feel like the plot was kind of weak, and it's buggy too. The fucking grappling hook is so broken, and the checkpoint system is like, I really, really tried hard to like this game, but it just wasn't for me. It's got very positive reviews on Steam. It's just, for me, I just found it way too boring. Okay. And I'll be honest, I ended up looking up the cutscene video.
So it sounds to me like, aside from the technical issues, your issue with it is that the medium they use to tell the story is not very well executed, and as a result, the story they're trying to tell couldn't keep you engaged.
Right.
keep
It's
playing. Okay.
the thing about the story is that if you're gonna leave it like not very outright told and leave it open to interpretation and like kind of sparsely told, then you need to give us something to think about. It's a very bare bones story, and it's told in a way that doesn't really like reinforce that. It like there's no deeper theory to uncover about the
It
story. There's
sounds like
nothing.
you're comparing it to like the very high. I mean, this is a very high bar, and I think this is unreasonable to compare it to. But I mean, look at Dark Souls, right? Like
Mhm.
they don't very often tell the story outright. It's usually through pieces of lore that you pick up and through
Right.
very brief interactions and things you see in the world. Are you looking for a story? Like, are you saying that they were trying to emulate something like that? Obviously, not to that degree, but
I don't know. It's just it's nothing happens story
nothing
wise.
happens. Okay.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, and I know this is like a weird, like, millennial complaint, but there are no,
Hold
there are
on.
no, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but there are no boss fights or anything like that. There's no finality to the game. You'll do a level, you'll complete this entire segment, you'll hit the switch at the end that completely changes everything, and you finish the level, and there's no boss fight. You just, like, hit the switch and leave, go back to the hub world, and, like, there's no, you feel like, what have I really accomplished here? And that's the same thing for every level. It's just on top of everything, most simple criticism I can give about this game is just that it was too boring.
Okay.
And the map is way too confusing. Sometimes the objective marker, they didn't bother adding any text there either, because why would they? That would be too on the nose for the game they're trying to tell. But the marker, it doesn't explain very well where to go. Instead of pointing like to a specific location, it just kind of points you to the general area and doesn't really do a good job telling you how to get there. But it's been a minute since I played it, so I just remember being extremely bored by this game, and I was very disappointed because Runic Games, I love Torchlight, and this is, I don't know if they bit off more than they can chew, but
yeah, I'm scrolling through their Steam reviews right now, and you're right. It's like it's positives all the way down.
yeah,
but the one negative review that I did find was essentially exactly what you're saying. Graphics, cinematography, and atmosphere are great. Well, they said the puzzles are nice. I am disappointed by the awful storytelling.
Oh, I found it.
So-called wordless narrative was done poorly. Huh. So you're not alone in this.
Yeah,
despite the positive reviews.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I guess I'm one of those few people that, are saying negative things about a game that's like universally praised, but like I'm reading their same review you are, I'm finding it, but it's like, aside from reading a picture, like, and yeah, I did have to look up a walkthrough at certain points, but it just, it felt like I was turning my brain off when I'm playing it,
Okay.
There was no extra thought put into it. But anyways, I don't want to talk too much about Hob. I played other stuff also. I played Firewatch all in one night. And have either of you played that?
So yeah, and I saw your tweet about it, and you're gonna have to throw hands.
Oh man, I have an opinion about this game.
I have an opinion about
don't spoil it.
I won't spoil it.
No spoilers.
Yeah, it's. Let me pull up my Steam review real quick, because I'm a terrible person when it comes to speaking. So if I have it in front of me, I'll So I thought the first 2 hours of Firewatch were really good, and then I thought like at a certain point in the story, it reaches this peak where you have all this tension, and then I guess like I just found I was very disappointed with the ending. It ended with a whimper. It felt the point of the story is like, maybe there isn't some crazy thing going on, maybe everything is just normal, a example I thought of is like, what if you were playing Uncharted and you're being hit with like the usual story stuff, like hints at the ancient civilization, there's signs of like people being hit by a curse, and then Drake finds out that it was all some elaborate prank that some guy pulled off, then everyone packs up their stuff and goes home and the game is over. That's what I felt like Firewatch was like.
I find that interesting because the events that were told in Firewatch were certainly not, they weren't something to be passed over. Like, you certainly find out what happened in the park. and why the things were the way they were. And I wouldn't say that it was trivial what happened. And on top of that, I would also say that the experience of the game, like most people who say Firewatch is a good game, they're not necessarily praising the ending or the storyline. They're praising the atmosphere of the game.
Right,
and the conversations you have, and the topics that they touch on, and the way that they meant to immerse you in this situation that was actually somewhat believable.
Yeah,
the reason I walked away from Firewatch with a very positive experience was because I've never had a game that did dialogue the way Firewatch did.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was very, very well made. The dialogue and the voice acting were all great, but there's just a couple things. Like, for one, none of your choices matter at all when the gameplay is, about making choices and, like saying different things to, Delilah over the radio. And like, maybe if I could enjoy a game for the game and not solely based on the ending, if the game wasn't solely about the story. Like, if I was playing something like, Bayonetta 2 and the ending was just terrible, I wouldn't care because it's still a great action game. But like, the whole thing for me with Firewatch is that there's just no payoff for everything, I found like.
I think that's the difference thing, because when I was playing the game, I wasn't looking for the payoff. I went into it expecting this to be an experience to play. And when it ended, I thought the journey was really well done. I guess you're right that your choices don't impact the ending too much. I didn't really consider that, but I guess it's maybe that we're just looking for two different things out of that game. Like, I guess I really enjoyed the journey, whereas you're looking for some kind of a climax to the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think maybe I was expecting too much in terms of story out of it, but I really get what they were going for, but it just wasn't what I was expecting, and I just didn't find it very, like,
I can see that.
Yeah, but I did think, as a game, I feel like if they can, I wouldn't say learn from this mistake because it's very subjective, but I have complete faith that their next game is going to be like incredible if it plays anything or has dialogue anything like Firewatch.
Yeah. What was that game called again? Their new game?
In the Valley of Gods.
It looks so good.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I agree. But other than that, Brandon, did you play it at all? Did you play Firewatch?
I have not. I want to. It's one of those games that I have heard a lot about, and I know it's pretty short, and I've literally meant to play it since it came out, and it's one of those games that has just sat in my Steam library and haven't gotten around to. So
gotcha. Yeah,
I want to, but I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, it's only 3 hours long. It's one of those games that are really good to play in one night. Actually, no, 4 hours. Yeah, but other than that, I'll finish up real quick. Wolfenstein 2, I picked that up on sale. I didn't get too far into it because, like, initially I found it for PS4 at a really cheap price. That was a terrible mistake because something about the aiming on the controller in that is like, because I've played like,
why would you do this?
Here's the thing: it was $15 for Wolfenstein 2 on PS4. And I'm thinking, you know what? I've played Call of Duty on console. I've played shooters on console. Maybe I'll be, competent at this. But something about the aiming is like there's so much acceleration. It moves too slow when you push too little on the stick. It moves too fast. And when you consider the first few missions of Wolfenstein 2 and how stupid tough they are, the game was impossible on like higher difficulties. Like, I played all of Wolfenstein 1 on the highest difficulty. And there were rooms that stumped me, but like I finished it. Wolfenstein 2, I was playing it on like medium difficulty, and I was having like the same amount of frustration as like the later levels in the first game.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is impossible with the controller. So I was able to refund it and get it on PC. So I'm only 2 hours in. I haven't really sat down and put a lot of time into it, but that game has been amazing so far.
Yeah.
Like, it has a really, really strong opening.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, we talked about this before, right? I mean, if you liked Wolfenstein: The New Order, the Wolfenstein 2 is just the same, like batshit crazy action. They somehow, you'll see when you get further into the game, but they just somehow manage to one up the craziness of every single level.
I can't wait. I just love
like when you think it's reached like peak absurdity, like something else happens, and it's a ride.
Get crazier, yeah, and Billy BJ's his inner monologue in that game is just incredible.
Oh, dude, like, it's so well written.
It's so emotional too, like in the first level. But yeah, I'm only like 2 levels in, so I don't know too much, but I'm excited. I just love how you turn it on, and you're right back in there with these characters that you love, and the characters are so great in that game. The villain is such a great villain.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, it's really fun. I can't wait to finish that. But there's a lot more I played, but I'm just gonna stop there because we have a podcast to do. So
Yeah, that segues pretty well into what I've been playing. I got a chance to play some over the break. I'm not finished with Wolfenstein 2, but I think I'm definitely over halfway. I'm not sure exactly how far left I have to go, but yeah, Wolfenstein 2 is really good. I think I echo what you're talking about though with the difficulty. I actually put it like one down from the default difficulty because some of the rooms, literally one of the rooms, and I mean, if you've played the game, you might know which one I'm talking about, but one of the rooms I actually, after dying like probably 8 times and restarting the room, I actually put it to the lowest difficulty because I was just tired of dealing with it, and I was like, this isn't fun. I'm just like, I continue banging my head against this wall, and it's not like it was testing my mental metal or anything. There were just a lot of enemies, and like you'd start out with no guns, and you got to go pick up guns, and it just wasn't like, honestly, it just wasn't fun. So
Right.
I think that's one of the only real blemishes I can say about that game is I think the difficulty tuning is really bad, especially compared to the previous games where like typically I'll leave games on their default difficulty and just play like that, kind of play how they intend it for normal folks.
right.
And I didn't have a problem with either of the past Wolfenstein games, but this one, just like it just wasn't fun to have to restart levels because I was dying. So I lowered the difficulty, and everything has been. I mean, the game honestly is pretty like fairly easy on the second to lowest difficulty. But yeah, that one room was still like silly difficult, and so I lowered it to the lowest difficulty. The one where he's got a pacifier in his mouth, and so anyway. But yeah, I think the storytelling is great. Like I think they turn BJ Blazkowicz into a character that with more personality than I think he ever should have had. And so like it's cool that what started out as obviously a really basic personality and a basic premise, has turned into like a pretty rich and deep storyline. So that's pretty much the only reason I'm there for that game. Like the shooting is fine, but it's pretty repetitive after a while. I think the story is what keeps me playing it because I want to see it through to the end. So I played that. Got back into some PUBG. I hadn't played PUBG for probably over a month because just traveling and stuff, and I knew that the patches were coming out and 1.0 was releasing. So I was just like, whatever, I'll give a little break from PUBG. Not really intentionally, but I just didn't have time to play. And came back the other day and played some duos with John, and wow, the 1.0 update is really good. It is, I mean, that game is far better than the previous product was, and I had fun with the previous version. It was fine. Like it wasn't perfect, but I still had fun with it. But I think the new like the 1.0 update just blows it away. The performance is way better. The UI is overhauled and like a lot cleaner, a lot better.
Yeah.
It really does. I think I was skeptical that leaving early access that game was going to be in a state where you could recommend it to people because it had so many bugs and like performance issues and all that. I have to say I think the 1.0 update is like pretty legitimately a game that deserves being out of early access. And I didn't expect to say that before playing it again. But yeah, PUBG is really good. Hadn't played in like over a month. First game back, we ended up winning. So that felt good. The new map is massive and plays so much differently than the original. I'm not even sure if I like it as much because you can drop in so many places where literally there is zero chance anyone's around you, and there are so many buildings that you end up. Some parts end up feeling like a driving simulator. It ends up feeling like a Just Cause or GTA, where you're spending minutes driving to stay in the circle. but it's a very different type of gameplay for that game. So I think it's cool, but also just plays so differently. And I don't know how someone would memorize that map the way that you can memorize the original. There are just so many little nooks and crannies that if you want to hide out, I mean, there are so many places to hide.
Gotcha.
But yeah, PUBG's been fun. I think I played some Hearthstone while I was traveling and just had my iPad. I did all the dungeon runs. The Hearthstone dungeon runs are really fun. It's just like a single player kind of, I don't know, survival mode sort of thing where you're playing against the computer and you play a succession of harder and harder bosses. While each boss you beat, you get to add, like, you get to pick cards to add to your deck or add special powers. And I think it's really like a really cool feature that I didn't know I wanted out of Hearthstone. But I got probably 10 or 12 hours, if not more, just like trying to get the dungeon runs. And I still only beat it with like half the classes. The goal is when you beat it with all the classes, you get a special card back or something. But that's been pretty neat, and it doesn't cost any money, so pretty awesome for a free feature. I think that's probably it. I think I played some more stuff, but that's a good amount considering we have stuff to talk about. So let's get into it. We've been gone a few weeks, so there is some news. But first off, let's start off with what's been going on in KBMOD. Speaking of wrapping up 2017. We have a post up on the site with some Game of the Year staff picks of the KBMOD crew. So I won't spoil it for you, but it's basically kind of a lot of us here at KBMOD basically listed our favorite Game of the Year. So we've got like Andrew, Tubnips, Capsar, Zumar, Reddish Blue, Brad. And so each one went through and listed out their favorite Game of the Year. So it's kind of just a quick hits of a lot of people's opinions about the year, which I think is pretty cool because a lot of times Game of the Year lists, it's like, you know, you're reading number 10, number 9, number 8, and this is pretty much everyone's favorites. So we're not going through a long list of, you know, the 10th and 9th and 8th best games. It's just each person's quick take on the favorite thing they played last year. So I think probably some of the games on there won't surprise you, but I think some of them will. Because some of them surprised me that those were people's favorites. But I don't want to spoil it. That's up on the site, kbmod.com. So go check that out. And also, we have new build guides up for January. If you're building a PC right now, sorry. Video cards and memory are both ludicrously expensive. And so the build guides for this month are weaker than previous months have been, which is kind of a shame. I mean, generally the trend is that the builds should always be staying the same or getting better, and that's usually the case, but it is not the case right now. There's actually like rumors of price fixing in the memory industry, which you know, that's a mess.
Really?
So memory prices have been going crazy, and memory prices as well as the cryptocurrency stuff has made video cards very sporadic. It was actually tough to even find certain video cards in stock. Like a lot of video cards are straight up just out of stock. And so finding video cards is tough. Finding reasonably priced RAM is pretty much impossible. But anyway, you know, that's just the way things are right now. So if you've got a build, we've got some build guides for you. But if you can wait, you know, it's probably a good idea. Not to mention, we're not actually going to talk about this much, but not to mention the recent security flaws on Intel chips that make everyone buying any sort of CPU right now very wary until that all shakes out. So again, not a great time to buy, but if you are going to, we've got some builds up for you to give you some ideas. So that's up on the site as well. Check those two out. Yeah. And let's hop right into some news. The biggest news of the week going on right now as we speak, going on all week. We've got Games Done Quick, AGDQ 2018 is started today, this Sunday, and then it goes until Saturday. If you haven't heard of GDQ, you must not have been listening to this cast for very long. But it happens a couple times a year. They do one in the winter, one in the summer. and it's a week-long stream, 24 hours a day, of some of the coolest speed runs there are, and it's all for charity. Twitch.tv/GamesDoneQuick, and they've got a schedule up on their website, GamesDoneQuick.com. Are there any runs you guys are looking forward to this year? They just started, so they haven't done a whole lot, but they change out the games pretty frequently. So anything you guys are looking forward to?
I'm scrolling through the schedule right now, and there's one that's missing in my mind that I enjoyed so much from last year. I'm not seeing Doom.
Oh yeah, that Doom run.
That Doom run was one of the coolest things I have ever seen, and I don't think it's happening again this year as I scroll through the sketch. I should just Control F this. What am I doing?
Yeah,
there are no results for Doom. Yeah.
That's a shame because that Doom run is awesome.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I there's not very often that I look forward to a particular game being done. If it's on, I'll usually just have it on passively, and I think you were saying you do the same thing, Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much on. It's on all week when I'm at a computer because I love consuming it passively. If you go read the schedule, like there are just so many games that I would never watch by themselves necessarily, but when they're just all strung together, and you're watching, typically really good runs of every game. Like the GDQ runners are pretty much always some of the best runners of these games. It's just so much fun to watch stuff that you didn't realize you were interested in until someone starts playing it. And they have such a huge variety of retro games and current day games. I mean, like you go from like an old Castlevania game to they have Left 4 Dead 2. I mean, like, I don't even know what the Left 4 Dead 2 speedrun looks like because I haven't watched that one before. But that sounds fun,
Yeah, and there are also so many games you just never heard of, but that turn out to be really good speed games. Like they have the Blues Brothers for the NES, which is scheduled at 8 minutes. I'm like, okay, I didn't even know that existed. But yeah, there's some good ones. Especially on the last day, there's a Bloodborne All Bosses run, which is going to be commentated by Bubbles Del Fuego, who's like one of the best runners. And All Bosses is easily the best category for Bloodborne because I think it might have been a couple of years ago when it was they did any percent, which involves doing like an item duplication and to like duplicate souls, and it's just really makes it pretty boring. But All Bosses is super fun. So I used to watch Elias, who speedruns the Souls games, or used to a lot. But I used to, like, every single day I would wake up and watch him do Bloodborne. So I'm excited to see that category done again. He's not really doing it too much anymore. But they're doing Pokemon Black and White 2. I haven't really...
I was, like, so sure you were about to say Pokemon Go, and I was like, how?
Speedrun of that? What is the category? Yeah. Yeah, that should be good. It's at 3 hours, so I'm not sure if I'm going to watch all of it. But also Super Monkey Ball. That's
those are
always
great.
Just...
Yeah, Super Monkey Ball's so good.
Yeah, those are really cool to watch. I see Jack and Daxter Precursor Legacy, but it's not being run by Bonesaw, so might skip on that one. If you haven't watched Bonesaw's run of Jack from SGDQ 2016, the one that got him banned, it is like hands down the best run of any GDQ event, in my opinion. It's hilarious. It is so good. So
I think, the one thing I think about GDQ that's really cool is it is a really good chance for you to potentially show off why streaming is so neat to someone who may not be into video games that much these days, because they have so many games. Like, they have current games for sure, but they have a lot of old games too. There's like the original Diablo. They're doing a Duke Nukem 3D run. So like if you have a stream on around your parents or something, it might be a good chance to be like, hey, look, this is like, the video games that I play all the time. Look at this. These are people that run those games really fast, and they're doing all of it for charity. And it's like maybe a good time to score some brownie points with those people in your life that don't think that video games are that great.
Exactly. Yeah. Convince them otherwise.
Yeah. So some really cool runs. I can't wait. One game I can't wait until they run, and I'm sure they will at some point, is Getting Over It, because those runs are already like in the couple minutes. But I would love to see a live run of that. you know, see
or
how
like a
quick they can
race
do.
of that. For,
Yeah,
like, multiple
a race
people.
would be great.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I see they're already doing Sonic Mania already, so
yeah.
I could see that.
There's so
And
many
also,
classics. Like once you watch GDQ, there's some games that are just there every run or every time, and like
right.
stuff like Super Monkey Ball is just, it is always mesmerizing. Like it's
Oh
never
yeah,
not interesting.
definitely. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I'm a little disappointed that there's no Mario 64 on the list or any Mario Maker. Like in the past, they've done relay races between Mario runners playing Mario Maker levels that no one has seen before and trying to like figure them out live.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty. I mean, that definitely takes a lot of work put into it, but it's still, disappointed that that's not going to be going on this year.
Yeah,
But
they
there's
do.
still a lot
They
of good
typically
stuff.
find ways to make each new time interesting, though, because they still do have a lot of Mario games.
Yeah,
But like the races are usually they change those out from event to event. But I mean,
right.
typically the ones they do are pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't wait to see what Taskbot is going to do this year
Oh
because
yeah,
always incredible.
Fastbot, that section is always nuts.
Oh yeah.
But so
So
that's
yeah,
going on all
definitely
this
check that
week.
out.
Yeah, check that out. GamesDoneQuick.com/schedule if you want to check out the games, and it's on all week at twitch.tv/GamesDoneQuick. I think, and they also have foreign language channels too, like foreign language restreams.
That's right. Yeah, that is really
So
cool.
you really, I mean, like you just have so many avenues to watch it, and it is all for a good cause. I think they're doing it or is this one for Prevent Cancer? They change it
I
up.
believe so.
Yeah, Prevent Cancer Foundation. So check that out. That is
They're already
where,
making they're already making huge steps to prevent cancer by putting it in sub-only chat. So pretty
Oh
happy.
God.
oh man,
God.
that was
So-
relevant, spicy, everything we needed.
That was juicy.
Very nice. Was that an original joke, or did you see that in chat?
That was a Katie's N original. You're
Wow,
welcome.
that is that is nice. Okay.
Turn a
Well,
fan on in there. It's just, a little,
Yeah, that was a better joke than I expected on our lead out there.
boom.
So next up in the news, we have the High Res Expo was going on this weekend. That's I think was the Smite World Championship. That now that they have multiple games, I guess you kind of gotta turn it into a more general event. So that was going on. That was like they had their Paladins Championship. I think their Smite Championship. So that's their big event of the year. And I don't know that there's like a ton of crazy news that comes out of something like that. But they did announce a new game mode for their game Paladins
My God.
called.
Can you guess what game mode they would have introduced?
Yeah, can you
let's
guess-
think about
can-
what's topical right now.
Can you guess the game mode? And then can you guess the name of that game mode?
The name about this is what's really offensive to me.
So-
That's where, yeah.
We'll give you a hint. Battle Royale, kind of a hot thing. So yeah, of course, Paladins getting into the Battle Royale game, maybe a little on the nose with Paladins Battlegrounds.
Oof,
What the
Oof.
fuck?
that
So-
sounds like if I had not heard of Paladins previously, I would have thought like, oh man, this is like a Chinese market knockoff.
Yeah.
Even the acronym will come
yeah.
down to them just missing the letter U.
Yeah. So there's so definitely
Oh
going
yeah,
after.
it is PBG. Oh my god, that is disgusting. I did not even notice that until now. Sorry.
Yeah, going after a certain audience, I think, with a
Yeah,
name like
maybe.
that. So following on to that, you can see a trailer there. I think that it was playable on the show floor, and it's a game mode, so it's not. I don't think they're doing a kind of Fortnite thing where they're making a different game. I think it's still going to be in the Paladins game. But who knows? If it's popular, I could see High Res spinning it out the way that Fortnite did, because that worked pretty well for Fortnite. And a name like this, I feel like they're maybe try and cash in on some of the hype. But
I've been waiting very patiently for Player Unknown's response, because I'm sure it's going to
oh
be.
my god.
I'm sure it's going to be very tempered. I'm sure it's going to be very level-headed.
Mm.
I'm positive he'll make several very poignant and respectable points in his argument, like he's been known to in the past.
Yeah.
It's not April 1st yet, Ying. Come on, dude.
Oh, sorry.
So there
I
was
just I'm thinking about
real
Go ahead.
quick. There was an article that came out afterward. I think PC Gamer talked to Stu Chisholm, who is the president of High Res, and all around pretty good guy. I've met Stu before. They talk with him about the name, and he's maybe a little bit cheeky, but he says this is a quote. He said, "We actually had a lot of conversations. Do we call it Battle Royale? Do we call it Battlegrounds? Do we call it something else? We thought if we call it something completely out of the blue, people might not know what it was. Or if we call it Survival, which we previously had as a mode, people might think it was the previous version." So I guess that kind of makes sense. If you had something called Survival, you maybe don't call it Survival. But then he says, but Battlegrounds, we actually settled on Battlegrounds because I don't know if you got the same feeling when you played, but when we got to actually playing the mode, you're in your 4-person team with your classes, it felt like an MMO raid party. Anyway, he goes on to say that they named it Battlegrounds because they wanted it to be reminiscent of old MMO Battlegrounds, kind of like Alterac Valley in World of Warcraft and things like that, which, fine, but also, like, is that really why you named it Battlegrounds?
I don't believe that for a second, because even though that makes sense, you have to ignore so much of the current connotation of Battlegrounds.
Yeah,
to make
that certainly sounds like an answer that was crafted inside of a boardroom meeting. Because at the end he says, and I guess these are quotes, that the title is sure to get a little bit of buzz, and that quote, "No one will have too many doubts," quote, about what kind of game mode it offers.
That's true.
I wonder if there's like maybe a 4 or 5 5-man team at PUBG Corp right now that is tackled PlayerUnknown to the ground to keep him from giving publicity the same way he did Fortnite.
Yeah, they're trying to keep all the keyboards away from him.
Yeah, he's like trying to tweet. They're whipping like several iPhones out of his hands.
He's got like 6 pressure balls. He's just squeezing at all times, foaming from the mouth.
Yeah, I mean, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but this is, I think this is a little much, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I get that.
I get that on the heel too of PlayerUnknown recently saying that he wants more protection for game IPs and the genres that they make popular.
Yeah,
I think pretty sure he made a statement about that like maybe 2 weeks before.
Yeah, I'm certainly not a lawyer, but you could. I could see a reasonable person getting confused about a game called Paladin's Battlegrounds and a game called PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and I think someone could confuse the two and assume that Paladin's Battlegrounds is the same kind of thing. So if they wanted to take it to court, like they might have a reasonable chance there. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if they'd ever do that, but it's pretty clear that like. Even if they're not trying to cash in, the name is clearly a cash in.
Yeah,
I think calling it. Go ahead.
I think if PlayerUnknown is going to make a big deal about anything out of everything that he has recently, this one I think has the greatest validity to it. Like this one, I would totally understand if he straight up came out and said, we're a little bit upset about this. We're going to look into action about what we can do about this. Because as much as I like to make fun of him and his reactions to most things, I think I would understand this one kind of getting on his nerves and wanting to do something about it.
Yeah, I think I can sympathize more with being upset about someone stealing part of the name more so than I can sympathize with like people stealing sort of the general concepts of the game.
Yeah,
because that's something where there's just clearly you're not gonna be able to protect that stuff. Like you can't protect concepts and ideas very well in games. Like that stuff it happens. You're gonna get derivative works that change a whole lot of things. And if they're not reusing textures or dialogue or any of the stuff that you do have legal claim to, then you're kind of just shouting at the wall. But like a name that gets into kind of trademarks and confusion over that sort of thing. That's a pretty different story. And I mean, wow, making the name Battlegrounds, I think just I'm surprised. Like that's pretty
Yeah,
blatant.
it's a little. I mean, I don't know about disrespectful. Like, I don't think that's the right word, but yeah, it's definitely cheeky. I think that's the best word to describe it. What you said.
Yeah.
But like thinking about it, like not just for name, just thinking about like how it would function as a game, like class-based battle royale. It's like thinking like, what if there was like Overwatch battle royale? Like, how would that even work? How do you solo queue? You know, if like everyone would have to be soldiers. Something. I mean, I'm just gonna make straight up Overwatch, comparisons because I haven't played Paladins, and I'm assuming it's the same essential concept from what we all know about Paladins. But I mean, they talked about the 4-person like squads. I don't know if you're gonna have to play certain roles when you drop down, or
I mean, it might be a very different game, but that's like
yeah,
I think that's the point is that if you're gonna make a game based on that concept, like just don't you literally have a game that starts with the letter P and having an
yeah.
acronym that's going to be like PBG or PABG.
Oh
I
my
mean,
god.
you're
Oh
getting
my
real
God,
close there. Like
What
you're
if
getting
they
real cheeky.
what if they called it like Paladins Ultimate Battlegrounds?
That's exactly. Yeah,
Oh man.
I think you could have I mean, you could have called it one of many different words. You could have
Yeah.
used like Battle Royale, even though like that presumably is someone's IP. So I'm surprised that people continue throwing Battle Royale around. But you could have called it like Paladins Royale or something Royale, something Survival, something I don't know. They're literally any word but Battlegrounds. Like that's a pretty core part of the name.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's I don't know. I would
mean,
not be
we've
surprised.
seen cases of this go to court previously. I mean, ZeniMax is infamous for doing stuff like this, taking
Right.
down a game called Scrolls because they own the domain for Elder Scrolls. So
Right.
in some capacity, there's legal standing for this. I think it just depends on maybe PUBG Corp's specific legal standing, or maybe what they have in terms of like the claim that they have to the name may be different
Right.
between like what they do and what ZeniMax has.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah, I would not be surprised given how much, like, given that they've already talked about sort of being upset that they have so many copycats out there. This is a copycat case where you could probably actually make a case and at least give them, like, you could give them a cease and desist and threaten to take them to court, and they might change it because, like, I don't know that they would have a whole lot of ground to stand on. They're pretty clearly trying to bank on a little bit of customer confusion. So I think, I generally like high res, but I think, yeah, cheeky is like the most generous word I can give here. So we'll see if that ends up making a splash at all. If I'm sure if it does, and if it does well, then I bet PUBG Corp probably will think about legal action. But that we'll have to see. Anyway, if you try Paladins Battlegrounds, let us know how it is. I haven't tried it. I haven't watched the stuff from the show floor. But,
is it out, or
no? But
is
I
it
think
only available?
yeah, if I think it will, I'm sure it will be out soon. But it was playable on the show floor. There's like some.
Okay.
I think they streamed some of it.
I'll probably watch that.
So let's head into some quick hits. Speaking of PUBG, Lawbreakers. Speaking of PUBG and Lawbreakers, Lawbreakers publisher Nexon, I think, yeah, Nexon published Lawbreakers. They basically said that PUBG is kind of the reason they failed, or one of the reasons. Which I think is kind of an interesting thing to say, considering they're pretty different games. And PUBG, as someone has noted in the document,
Yeah, I went deep on this one. I did some research.
yeah, PUBG, it's PUBG came out in early access in March. Lawbreakers came out in August. So those are kind of different timelines. Lawbreakers came out about 4 or 5 months after PUBG had already hit the marketplace. So games come out every day. It's not like you launched in the same week or anything. But yeah, the quote from the CFO of Nexon says, "Our results in North America in the third quarter were below our outlook, mainly due to the sales from Lawbreakers being below our expectations. Lawbreakers is a unique FPS developed for core users." I would say based on their player numbers, It is developed for very, very, very core users and only those users. They did, and then so they added, this is a quote, "We had very high expectations for its launch. However, the timing of its launch turned out to be unfortunate. Specifically, the blockbuster PC online game PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds came out right about the same time, making the market environment very tough for first-person shooters in general and for lawbreakers." So that's I guess if you're a CFO and you're trying to appease your investors, I guess that is an answer. But I think that is also an answer that pretty much anyone in the gaming industry could give if their sales were lower than expected. You could pretty much just shrug and be like, yeah, PUBG, right?
I mean, that official statement about them coming out around the same time is when your statement is undone by 2 Wikipedia articles, that's not a very strong argument.
Yeah.
But in the article, it links to. I mean, I really did go deep on this one. I don't know how I ended up getting into this, but in the article, they actually link to the full transcript of Nexon's Q3 earning conference, and I went ahead and I read through most of it, and it was really interesting actually. As it turns out, Nexon's had a pretty good year, barring lawbreakers. They've actually made significant financial improvements across the board, and then every time lawbreakers comes up, you see the familiar words of "we had high expectations, unfortunately they were not met." And I was kind of skimming through it, hoping I could find 1 or 2 interesting sentences about what they thought about the future of lawbreakers. And I am fortunate that it looks like there is something here that I'm not quite sure what it means. But it's the representative director and chief financial officer had a statement here that says, in Q3 and other expenses, impairment losses included. Out of the total number of impairment loss, lawbreakers-related impairment loss is actually accounting for the majority of that amount. She then goes on to say, regarding impairment loss for lawbreakers, this is everything. So we will not be accruing any other impairment loss pertaining to lawbreakers in the future. So from what I understand, impairment loss is essentially how much the net value of lawbreakers has depreciated in comparison to how much cash flow is supposed to generate in the future. So it's kind of like projecting loss in some capacity. For this person to be saying that they will not be accruing any other impairment loss pertaining to lawbreakers in the future, I'm interested as to what that means, because that's basically them guaranteeing that they're done losing money on lawbreakers.
Right. So it basically, I think the subtext is it means they've written it off. Like it's they're not intending to throw more money after it, and they are basically like pretty much rock bottom. Right. It's like
it sounds like they're just cutting their losses at this point.
Cutting their losses. We're done here. Right. Like we're righting the ship by killing it.
Exactly.
But yeah, it looks
I thought
like
that was interesting.
You said it accounts for the majority of their Q3 expenditure, which was about like over $30 million. So if that accounts for the majority, then that means by definition at least about $15-16 million just for one quarter.
Yeah,
that is, I mean, when you just look at like how, I think it would have been tough for lawbreakers to break even on that kind of expense regardless.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, for real.
They would have been burned. I mean, at that burn rate, that's what, $60 million a year. That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, it accounted for a majority of their expenses, and it's going to be accounting for the majority of their projected losses in the future. Yeah. Which is, I guess, is a very good reason for the CFO to be saying, yeah, we're done accruing impairment loss for this. We're just cutting our losses at this point.
I mean, yeah, it's like, what more can you do? But yeah, that's sad. I mean, basically this signals that this is probably the last time we really talk about lawbreakers, because if Nexon is basically writing it off, then I'm not sure what their next move is. I don't know if they can pivot if the publisher is basically saying we're done here. I don't know if that means that they can still go do their own thing if someone else wants to fund it, or I don't know how that works, but yeah, it sounds like Lawbreakers is basically dead. Like, I mean, it's been dead, but it's like really like actually according to financials dead.
Yeah, and this is relevant to what people have been saying lawbreakers should have been doing for a long time. If they're done accruing impairment loss, I'm wondering if that means they're finally going to send this thing to free to play.
Please, God, finally, please.
I mean, it seems like you'd want to do something, right? You've got art assets
I feel
and
like
everything.
When you're basically saying we're not investing anything else into this game anymore, I mean, you should probably just make it free to play and see what rolls in, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know though. If they don't have money, I mean, free to play means that they're gonna have a lot of people playing, which means they would have to up their server costs and all that. So like, you still have to have money
true.
making a choice like that. I don't know. It's just that's.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah, so maybe it is just a matter of we're just letting this thing die now.
Right. That's what I wonder is like, if Nexon is throwing in the towel, does that mean Boss Key can still do stuff outside of that if they have the funds to? You know, like I don't know how that relationship works, but it certainly sounds bleak. And
yeah,
I imagine at some point maybe we'll get a statement from Cliffy B or someone talk about the future of Lawbreakers, because you don't really want to have people just guessing at the future when Nexon has pretty much said we're done here.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
And you know, as is custom with every time we talk about Lawbreakers on the cast, we've got to pull up the Steam charts and see what kind of player base we're looking at. Lawbreakers currently sitting at 10 players.
Man,
just,
our cast right now could make up 30% of the player base of the game.
Exactly.
Man, that is, yeah. You look at all the games that have more than 10 people playing it on Steam, and you're looking at like small indie titles beating that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And we look at like the amount of viewers right now, and that's like how many multiples of people playing this game. We could repopulate this game. We could revive it. We could spike the chart. I don't know. I mean, I think what Lawbreakers really needs to do is just go free to play and then announce Lawbreakers Battlegrounds, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that before. I actually don't think that's the worst idea. But also, like, all of that would still take work. You know, that would still take people working on making those changes. And
right, yeah.
So, like, they're still going to need to find money somewhere, because you have to assume they have basically no revenue coming in with that kind of player base.
Didn't they just release DLC for it? Like, didn't they just do an expansion?
I mean, but that's the thing is that might have already been done. Like, if they were to try and change now, it's like they have to. I assume they're living on borrowed time, because you have no revenue coming in. So if the publisher's not going to continue funding it, then like they're going to have. I don't know. That's what I mean. Like, they would have to find someone to fund it, to try and make that change and salvage the game.
Right.
Which,
exactly.
You know, for their sake, I hope they do. Because I think Lawbreakers could, if any game could make a revival with like some sort of pivot like that, I think Lawbreakers has as good a chance as anything.
Oh yeah, I agree. I feel like just because of how much publicity it's kind of getting over just the drama of it and how little people are playing it, I think going free to play and kind of hyping that up would actually turn out pretty well for them. I mean,
I know. I'm amazed that with all the press they've gotten, that the player numbers still continue to be that low. Because normally, at least getting some sort of press, it's like you would think.
Yeah.
You would think people would just check it out, but
exactly,
they have not. They have not. Very core user base.
That's the core user base, right? That's the wording.
Titty is playing it, still trying to find a match.
I mean, I think the big problem with just people wanting to try it is, even if I were someone who had their interest peaked, I'm going to log on to the Steam store and see that I have to buy it for $40 Canadian.
Right. It's I mean,
that's still the issue.
That's what I mean. Like, at some point you've got to do something, right? You gotta it can't just be a $40 title sitting there. Like, you gotta do something.
Yeah, exactly.
So I hope that there's like some announcement waiting in the wings that they are gonna try and pivot somehow. Because it would be a shame for it to just like straight up shut down. That would be a pretty sad conclusion.
Mm-hmm. To that whole saga.
But according to Nexon, that's pretty much what they're doing. They're washing their hands of it. So we will see. But PUBG, man, PUBG, killing games, and also just soaring to new heights. PUBG hit 3 million concurrent players breaking its own record. That is honestly just crazy.
Yeah.
We've talked multiple
Wild number.
times. I just don't know what the peak for this game is, but it is now at least more than 3 million, and that's concurrent players. 3 million people all playing the game at one time. As I talk right now, there are over 1.3 million people playing right now.
Yeah.
It's 9:30 p.m. Pacific. You know, this is low time for Steam, and there's still 1 million people around the world playing this game on Steam.
Right.
That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah. I remember when this was coming out, and we're talking about, man, I wonder if this is gonna be the H1 killer. Like,
yeah, all of that crazy. that just looks so quaint in hindsight. That at one point, like, PUBG doesn't really have any competitors now on the Steam, like in the Steam world. The competitors are like games where we can't get good verified player numbers, like League of Legends and the Blizzard games and stuff that's not public, that we know is big, but we don't know how big. But PUBG is easily in that realm now. 3 million concurrent players, that is right up there with the biggest games in the world.
Right. Yeah.
Which is crazy. That is just crazy to me that such a hardcore game on its face is still getting that kind of attention. Like, when I play the game now, it feels more polished, feels better, but man, it is still a gamer's game. Like, that is not a friendly, casual little game that you play here and there. Like, it is a deep game with a really high skill ceiling. So I'm amazed that it's done as well as it has, but I'm glad it has, because I think you look at it and it's like, yeah, the PC is thriving, not going anywhere anytime soon, and I'm glad that, like, we have a big breakout hit to point to and say, look, these guys did it. You know, if you've got a good game, good concept, anyone could have made this game. And
right,
man, at 3 million concurrent players is crazy. Speaking of concurrent players, Steam itself hit some new records this past. Well, I guess this was recently. It hit a new peak of over 18 million logged into Steam at one time, which is more than 30% of the peak from a year ago, and more than 7 million people of that peak were in game, which is also a new record. So I think just really like pretty good time to be PC gaming, all things considered. Steam continues to grow. I think gaming continues to go more mainstream, and it's really cool to see. I mean, we're seeing games like the big franchises are doing well, but we're also seeing stuff like PUBG come onto the scene. Like, just seeing their billions on the top sellers chart right now, which I checked the other day. Like, their billions being a top seller when it's just like it was a little indie game in early access. It's just really cool to see some of those success stories. And it's like even the small games, I think have a good shot to make it big. And they have a good shot to make it big when Steam's numbers continue to go up. So that's pretty cool. 18 million concurrents on Steam. That's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people.
Yes, yeah. And 1/6 of them are all playing Battlegrounds right now. Out of every 6 people that have Steam, they're playing Battlegrounds.
Yeah, it's exactly. Crazy. There's a 1 in 6 chance that your PC gaming friend is playing Battlegrounds.
Yep, I just opened up my Steam list, and I have 4 people playing PUBG right now.
Yeah, I've got 2. Wow.
So pretty banner year for Steam, banner year for PUBG, and we'll see if those numbers keep climbing in 2018. I can only imagine, like, PUBG, now that they're on console too, I'm sure their overall player numbers continue to grow even bigger.
But
I don't know that we have concurrent numbers for like Xbox, but you can be sure that they're still climbing, which is great, because I'm glad that I'll be able to play a game like that for a long time. You know, it's not going anywhere. They're going to keep on adding to that for a while.
Right.
So good stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of good stuff, KD.
Uh-oh, baby.
Bloodborne bosses
Woo-hoo-hoo.
found by hackers.
Let me
This
tell
has
you about
this article is tailor made for you.
Yes,
So tell me about it.
wow. I can't believe I'm saying this. This is a sentence coming out of my mouth, but and across this past break, I fought 2 bosses in Bloodborne I had never fought before. And you're thinking,
That sounds
why is that
impossible.
possible? It's impossible. Yeah, what the fuck? Listen, dude. So, in Bloodborne, there are these things called chalice dungeons, where you play the game, and it's randomly generated rooms with enemies to find loot and things like that, and any kind of randomly made chalice dungeon you play, you can find a code for it and share with people if they want to visit that same dungeon. And this is the same kind of thing that we talked about earlier in late 2017, when I was going to say earlier this year. Haha, no, but yeah, it's like finding that enemy that had just been undiscovered until then. But this is a little different. So people have went into just recently the files of Bloodborne. People have been getting access to them, which like surprisingly hasn't been done until now since the game released, and a bunch of stuff is being found out. I remember actually seeing the models for these 2 bosses before finding them online. They leaked, and so digging a little deeper, actually people with access to the files found that they were actually complete fights of these like enemies and areas in the game. And so they've taken these unused rooms and enemies and registered them under Chalice Dungeon like codes. So if you go on the Bloodborne right now, and this is exactly what I did, I grabbed my brother. I'm like, dude, do you want to go fight a boss in Bloodborne for the first time? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And so we put in the code, enter the room, and we're in this unused map with this crazy looking boss that looks like another form of the final boss. And we're just both losing our shit. Like, we can't believe what we're seeing. And the coolest thing is that this feature that's been in all the the Dark Souls games has been when you're playing and someone else is in the same area, you can see the phantom of them playing. There were phantoms of other players in the rooms for the unused content, which is just so cool. It's kind of become this like attraction for players to come and see. But yeah, so there was one boss. Yeah, it's really cool. One of the bosses was that giant like tentacle thing that looks like, the other form. And then the other one is this like giant wolf kind of beast that like leaps around the entire arena. It shoots out kind of projectiles, but again, they're unfinished bosses, so they're invisible and they'll just kind of hit you randomly. And like, so you just kind of spam the dodge button and you have no idea like what you're trying to avoid, but you always get hit anyways. But it was kind of scary at first because if you die in those rooms, or if you try to like reawaken and go back to the hub world, the hunter's dream, it doesn't work. You just go back to that room and like, okay, I just ruined my save file. But for some reason, if you if you jump off the edge of the map and just fall, you end up back in the hunter's dream. I feel like they put that in as kind of like a fail safe in case anyone fell out of the map and couldn't get back. But yeah, it's just crazy. That's a really cool story. And it makes me wonder just how much more content is hidden for people to find. There are some other rooms, like one room is just a like testing room for enemies, and there are 2 different enemy types that haven't been seen in the full game before. There's like this pig dude with the axe, and there are like these 2 ghosts that are non-hostile. And it's just crazy to think, like this long after Bloodborne, there's still more content coming out because like that game is just huge. And someone's asking in chat, the first boss I did one shot, but the second one, because of the fucking bullshit invisible projectiles, did kill me. But I couldn't be mad because I was like, you know what? This is a proper Bloodborne boss if it's killing me. So, it's a challenge in the game I haven't, completed yet. So yeah, that was really cool. That was a pretty interesting story and something people, will enjoy regardless if you play Bloodborne. That's just cool that more content is being, dug up and made available for, you don't even have to be a modder to play it. So it was awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Still getting mileage out of Bloodborne, even after this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that'll do it for the quick hits. KD, why don't you take us into a pretty sparse new releases section?
Yeah, it's the beginning of the year, so there really aren't any new releases. This is like the worst time to release games. There are a lot of games coming out. There are actually 2 visual novels that are very questionable, but didn't choose to add those because we don't want that anime filth on our podcast. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Weebelows? Okay, anyways, so yeah, that was okay. Channeling my GDQ cringe with AGDQ going on. Anyways, new releases. So this game actually came out today or yesterday at the time of this recording. Blade Runner 9732, which I read and I'm thinking like this is just some fan game, some visual novel that someone made off this property. But no, it's a VR game. It can be VR, but you can play without a VR headset. It's a virtual tour inside Deckard's apartment. And just looking at the screenshots, it's free to download. It's just his apartment room in Blade Runner with like a glimpse outside, painstakingly and like beautifully recreated. And it says like recommended 980 Ti, minimum graphics is a 1070. No, a 970, sorry. But so yeah, if you're a big fan of Blade Runner and you'd love to, you know, walk around the apartment, which, you know, does look really beautiful, you can download that for free and check that out. And really the only game we have coming out this next week that looks interesting is a game called Westward, which is early access VR only game, which are 2 things that would normally never make it onto the new release section. But it's a VR solo or co-op Western kind of bank heist game. So like watching the trailer, he's like working together with like a friend of his who also has a VR headset. They're like blowing open the wall. They're, you know, taking the money. They have like guns and everything. And it just looks interesting. It looks like one of the few VR games that are very, very like well made, I guess. So if you're looking for more stuff to play with VR, this comes out January 10th. So check it out. And yeah, that's going to do it for the new releases this week. Yeah, not a lot of stuff at all.
Yeah,
but
well,
you know,
I mean, it's definitely not a great time to be releasing games right after Christmas and New Year's. I think typically a lot of games wait for at least, you know, kind of toward the spring. I imagine we'll maybe get some games being talked about at PAX South, which is coming up next weekend, I think. But yeah, that's pretty, man, that's real sparse this week.
Yeah, not good at all. But the coming weeks, January, like as a whole, is actually looking really good for video games. Like we're getting the Dragon Ball Fighter Z fighting game, which looks amazing. Monster Hunter World. It's not going to be coming to PC, but it's going to be on PS4 and I think Xbox One also. And yeah, the beta for that. There's actually one more beta coming out in I think the next week for PS4 owners. So make sure you jump on that if you want to play it. It's really fun. So yeah, as a whole, January might pick up towards the end, but nothing really crazy right now, as you said. Yeah.
All right, well, let's head into the viewer questions. We got a couple here. We have a question from @KillerBob5 asks, if you could speedrun any game at AGDQ, what would it be?
Octodad.
Octodad,
Oh,
really?
Yes.
I'm serious. I love that game.
Are you that good
I
at
love
Octodad? You be able to speedrun?
No, but I wish I was. That's the question, right? What game I wish I was really good at?
Okay.
No, I think like Octodad would be a fun choice for how silly the movement is, but like if you watch people who have speedrun it, like they're so precise with how they've managed to move that ridiculous octopus's limbs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've watched speedruns of it too, like when they do like the mini games with the basketball or like throwing objects, and just they get so precise with it. Like
it still looks ridiculous. Like Octodad doesn't look like he's doing anything coordinated. That character is still flailing around looking silly.
I can't believe I forgot about Octodad. That game was actually
dude, it was so good. It was, to me, Octodad was perfect because it was the last sort of like goofy physics game that actually had some kind of substance to it before things like I Am Bread and Fidget Spinner Simulator took over.
Right, Goat Simulator.
I can't control my limbs. It's really funny. Whereas like Octodad actually had like a story. There was like they made you do interesting things like scan groceries. They made you like try to repair a birdhouse. Like they swapped it up a lot. Where it's just like, dude, you're playing as Bread. It's so funny and random. Like,
right, exactly. Look at this meme, dude.
Yeah,
no, yeah. Well, it was a really good game.
Honestly, I think about it too. I think a while ago someone asked a question If you could like give a game a sequel that doesn't have a sequel, what would it be? And I didn't think about it at the time, but if Octodad 2 came out, I would be like an instant purchase. I'd be all over that.
That would be really cool.
But if I could,
Wasn't there more than one Octodad
game?
game?
It'd be Octodad.
Well, there's the Octodad that was the student project, and then there's Octodad Dadliest Catch, which is
like the full game, and then they released like two more free levels after that.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
But there hasn't been like a brand new.
They made more levels for it?
They made 2. Yeah.
I haven't played. There's Octodad content I haven't played. Holy shit.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You get the 2 episodes for free.
How does this game have a 69 on Metacritic?
Metacritic doesn't know what they're talking about.
Misunderstood.
Yeah.
One thing I thought after playing Octodad is like, this game I could see them doing like a Pixar movie for or something. Because like,
yeah, you know what? That was the other thing too. The game had a very charming atmosphere to it.
Yeah,
it was silly. There was nothing serious about it, but
yeah,
there was a narrative there.
It's a very wholesome game.
Yeah, it's a very wholesome game.
It's surprisingly heartwarming because it's like Octodad's just trying to care for his family, you know, and he's trying his best, man.
What would you speedrun, Katie?
Oh, you already know Bloodborne, dude. Yeah. I mean, I know I talked about it earlier.
You've basically been prepping for that for a while.
Yeah, I've thought about it, but there's just like reservations I have about like really putting the time into learning it, because one of the things is it's really tricky to practice certain segments of the game because the game always saves. You can't really prepare different save files. So what a lot of people do is they get PlayStation Plus, which I mean I do have, but I haven't really put in the work for it. But they'll get to certain areas in the route, and then they'll upload that save data to storage. And then if they want to practice that boss fight, they have to like go online and download that save data every time they want to practice it over, which is probably not a very extensive like process, but it's definitely a game I enjoy watching, and I think getting to the point where I can be really good at it would be something to be really proud of. That or Mario 64 is like I've also watched a shit ton of speedruns from that, from like Siglemic or Clint Stevens. Yeah, they both kill it. Or maybe Wind Waker. There are a lot of games, but overall I'd probably either Bloodborne or Mario 64 I'd be happy with.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
You picked some pretty popular games though. You'd have a lot of competition there.
Hey, I'm going for that Twitch market, baby.
I think if I had to pick one right off the bat, I would probably say Return to Castle Wolfenstein, because
that's a good one.
Because that is the game, like that series, right? Wolfenstein and then Enemy Territory, I think was the best I have ever been at movement in a game. Like that was what put me above other players. Like I had a good shot, you know, I was good at a lot of aspects of the game, but my movement was so much better than pretty much everyone I played with. And I feel like I'd probably be really primed for a good Wolfenstein speedrun just because I have pretty good movement in that series. So, and I'm looking here, it looks like the world record according to speedrun.com right now is 43 minutes 43 seconds. That was done 7 months ago. So, you know, I don't know, that feels fast, but also it doesn't feel like something completely absurd. So maybe I could compete there.
Okay.
Not going for this crazy stuff like you. Bloodborne and Mario 64, man. That's like we're working with like real professionals there.
Well, you are talking to a former world record speedrun holder, sir. I don't think you understand.
Maybe I don't.
Like that's something that
prove me wrong.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I could, because the route for that BioShock DLC has changed so much from what I played. I don't know if I want to. And like no one plays it, so there's like no point in me getting into it.
No, actually, that's the best place to get into speedruns. You got to get into something where you can feel like you're going to be the best.
Oh yeah, or there's like literally no competition.
Yeah, that's why like Wolfenstein doesn't. It's not super hopping. You know, it's not like, I feel like it's not when people are breaking its world records like 7 months ago. I mean, no one heard of that stuff. Whereas Mario and Bloodborne, I mean, people are running that on Twitch all day.
Yeah, you're right. One game I thought about really getting into that I was speedrunning like the first world for a bit, like the first 20 minutes, was A Hat in Time on Steam when it first came out. really good 3D platformer. It's
Yeah.
actually right now it's like the highest rated 3D platformer on Steam, and people are like still going strong speedruns on that game. It's already down to 45 minutes, and
Wow.
like I kept trying to learn it, and the route just kept changing and changing, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give it like a month, and then I'll look and see if there's one route I can really learn with, because I don't want to mind the game and look for new skips or anything. I don't know if I'm comfortable like doing that, but it just keeps getting updated and changed. Like that's probably the realistic answer for me, is like stick the time to really get good at that game.
You know, KD,
But,
as you get older, you think more and more about leaving a legacy. And
yeah.
there'll come a point in
You're
your
right.
life where you're going to look back and think, you know, what do I have to put? What do I have that I can put my name on? And you know, food for thought.
You're right. You're right. Well, I do have some. Let me actually check real quick. There. Let's see. Episode 1 speedrun. Where am I? The leaderboard, the official leaderboard. One thing that is just great about this, someone else added me to this leaderboard. I did not get on here and submit. Like someone found my record and put it on there. Boom, I'm 12th place in the world. Oh, I could clean up
Well,
easily.
see, there you go. You're
Wow.
already so close.
This is sad. Everyone else has a colored name and a link to their Twitch, and I'm just there.
Hey, man,
That's
look, that could be you. No time like the present.
right. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, next up, our final question here from at Noah but no arc. He asks, you get to make, or rather, he states, and we have to fill in the blank. You get to make a new national holiday that honors blank. And he says a person, food, etc. So if we were able to make a new national holiday, what would we honor?
You know, another time, another place on the KBMOD podcast, I could say based God right now, and people would be reeling. People would think that was the funniest thing. You believe that shit?
I
I think that still plays in 2017.
Yeah.
I would
You
say
think-
we make a new national holiday that honors Twitch viewers who read the stream title before asking questions.
Those are individuals that
Boy,
like
They
that's
need to be commended.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that's a 2018 take right there.
That's really good.
That's very specific, but you know, I like those national holidays that have some specificity to them. You know, it's like National Cookie Day. I mean, come on, right? Like, who
Who
cares
gives a
about?
shit?
Like,
Yeah.
come on, that's just Big Cookie trying to sell you more cookies. But national Twitch viewers who read the stream title before asking questions in chat day. Now I'm like,
You
that is
know
very
exactly
specific.
what you are celebrating.
Now I want to Google how that came to be. Like what caused the momentum to create a holiday out of that?
Exactly.
That's pretty good. KD, what about you?
Mm.
What do you want to
I would
honor?
actually say come back to me, because I'm still kind of thinking right now. What would you honor, Brandon?
Well, I feel like it's kind of hard, because I feel like if I say, you know, I could say something like corn dogs. I really like corn dogs, and I feel like
Hot Pockets.
yeah, I feel like, you know, well, I wouldn't do Hot Pockets, because like Hot Pockets, that's a company, right? I'm not out here shilling for the man.
I
Corn
see.
dogs, anyone can make a corn dog. So,
That's
you know,
true.
but I feel like if that's my legacy, that I make a national holiday that honors corn dogs, then all of a sudden people come out of the woodwork, and it's like, really, corn dogs? You know, you couldn't think of anything more impactful, and people are gonna, and you know, maybe they're right. Like there's a lot of people out there that have made a big impact. Lots of products out there that have made a big impact. I feel like corn dogs, it's kind of trivial in the grand scheme of things. It's a little trivial. So I don't know. That's what comes to my mind. I really like corn dogs, and I wouldn't mind one day out of the year where, you know, we just have a corn dog because it's National Corn Dog Day.
Okay.
I can get behind that. Yeah. I see what you mean.
I'm trying to think about the different routes I could go, because like you pick something you're passionate about, you celebrate something that people do that is just really honorable. I'm thinking It's tough. There's just so many good choices. Like, part of me wants to be like, National Chow Garden Day. Everyone picks up Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, visits the Chow Garden, raises their children, and makes them play karate for emblems. And you just really, that takes up your entire day. You don't really get to eat during this time. You pretty much only eat when your chow eats.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a 24-hour event. You can't really sleep, or the government will, because by this point, another GameCube model has been released, which has internet access and NSA tracking. And it also the controller comes with, it gets your blood pressure, and if it doesn't detect your hands on the controller, it administers a lethal gas into the room. Which
okay,
is
we're maybe getting a little too 2018 with your answer here.
Yeah, we're a little 1980. Was it 1983? Or I don't know.
1984, I think, is
1984.
probably the year you're looking for.
That's my millennial, my book reading.
Yeah, you weren't even born in 84. It's fine.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, it'd probably be something related to that. Or
okay. Man, you want to talk about trivial? I thought my corn dogs one was trivial. That's
hey, it's got to be something you're passionate about, man.
No, I know. That's why it's a question. You get to make up your own mind here.
Yeah. Have you played the Chow Garden, Brandon? Ying?
It's probably been a long time.
I have not.
Ooh, you're missing out, man. Better get ready.
I mean, that's
January 8th, 2019 is when the holiday starts.
that is why I can understand why you would want to make that a holiday, because if you want to educate people, and this is, you think this is important, it's a cause that you want people to know about, then, what better way than a national holiday?
Right. Or maybe I'm just going like a completely different, like more simple route. I do like the Office Day, if there's like a holiday for The Office, where everyone just watches an episode or maybe binges The Office. That'd be something, acceptable.
Thing is, I don't know if that would age well. You got to think, how does your national holiday play in 100 years? That's why, like, corn dogs, man. Corn dogs are still gonna be around in 100 years. We're not all
timeless.
gonna be eaten through a straw.
The Office is timeless. The Chow Garden is timeless.
I mean, okay, but maybe the thing is, in 100 years, maybe we're not watching television, So, like, The Office Day, no one's going to have a television to watch The Office 100 years from now.
Okay.
You're still going to have hands to eat a corn dog. You're still going to have a mouth. Probably.
Well,
I mean, look, I don't know how quickly evolution works. 100 years, maybe that's a long time. Maybe not everyone will have mouths and hands. I'm not a scientist.
It's to the common person, that sounds like, of course we're going to still have hands, but you don't know that. You don't know that.
I won't be around.
Evolution's going to go.
I won't be around, so who knows, man?
Yeah, that's some real shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are going to remember the Chow Garden. Let's end the podcast before I just get depressed.
That gets pretty heavy. All right. Well, thank you for those questions.
The message of this podcast is that life is short. Leave us an iTunes review while you're still alive.
There you go. That's a you know what? New national holiday, National Podcast Review Day.
Ooh. National KBMOD Podcast Review Day, baby.
No, because that's too.
Or that just podcast in general.
That is much too specific, and I don't mind. Okay. I don't mind necessarily if people rate our podcast on that national holiday, because maybe they've already done ours. But on that day, you have to go rate a podcast that you like. You gotta show your appreciation. You gotta give that feedback on National Podcast Review Day.
Right.
So, because you know what, we'll pretend that the first one is happening this week, and on National Podcast Review Day, you should go to the KBMOD Podcast iTunes page and rate us 5 stars. Because that is what we deserve, and that is the only way that you'll potentially get this read on the podcast.
True.
Right? You're going to go, leave us 5-star review, give it a title, because I assume that's required, and put something in the body that you want us to read. It can be anything. We've had some incredible stuff, In fact, the last podcast review we got was an incredible journey through Yingity Yang's former music taste, and maybe still music taste. I don't know.
I'm listening to Dashboard Confessional right now.
Excellent.
And I'm not kidding. I've had it in the background this entire cast.
Oh, nice.
No wonder he's so mellow. But we've got two reviews to feature this week that we got in over the holidays. So thank you for sending those in. We were on a little bit of a break, so I'm glad that while we were gone, you guys are still thinking of us. So why don't we go right into them? KD, you want to take us away?
Let's do it, baby. This review comes from Zach. That's Zach with an extended amount of A's. Speaking of A's, you can subscribe to KBMOD on Twitch, KBMOD. Anyways, get that plug out of the way. Title of the review is Happy Holidays. Of course it's 5 stars. He says, if I have to listen to Hardballer and one more podcast, I will end myself. Happy Holidays from Chewy.
Okay.
Well, I don't know who Chewy is, but Zach, thank you for the review. Appreciate it.
I mean, look, I appreciate that he's honest with us. I do not want anyone potentially ending themselves over a podcast guest here. So
that's true.
I guess that seals it for the sake of this listener's life. I guess Hardballer can't be on the cast anymore.
That's true. I mean, yeah, it's a rational thought, but you've been on a podcast with Hardballer, so
and
you
luckily,
know exactly where they're coming from.
He left this review on December 23rd, so that was after Hardballer's last appearance. What would have been horrifying is if this was left before Hardballer was on last cast, and we didn't get a chance to read it before sealing this person's fate.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. We still have the responsibility now.
We do, and so we you know what, we have to uphold that responsibility. This is why I mean iTunes podcast reviews, they can be influential. So
as long as everyone on the podcast has that thought present in their head that if Hardballer appears again, someone in the world will die.
Yeah, it's life and death. It's not a game anymore.
It's not a game.
We talk about games. It's always, often very lighthearted discussion here, but this isn't funny. So we will, we got to preserve lives here.
That's our top priority at KBMOD. All right, we've got one more review, and let's go and take this one as well. It's from Supernova CK. The title of the review is "Socks Are My #1 Christmas Present." So Ying, he's standing up for you, man.
Not only did he say socks are his #1 Christmas present, in the body of his review, he added Hardballer.
Yeah, at Hardballer.
I'm pretty sure last podcast, Hardballer asked specifically for people to not at him after he said that Christmas socks are a terrible present. So Supernova CK here is taking a real stand by not only stating an opinion that Hardballer disagrees with, but he's defying Hardballer by adding him when he was specifically asked not to with that statement.
Man, and that's quite a statement. Awesome. I mean, that's iTunes podcast reviews. That's forever. That is on our podcast page for all time. So he feels that strongly. I can't believe 2 podcast reviews, both referencing Hardballer.
That was a very impactful episode, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, you have to give it to the man. He leaves an impression.
It's true.
Not necessarily saying a positive one. I'm just saying he leaves an impression.
Yeah. I think for the new Saw movie, they're just gonna have people who are like tied up. They're just gonna listen to that section where we get asked about our 4th favorite Christmas present. And by the time it's over, their ears are bleeding. They're like shaking violently. How is this man saying these things? Stop him!
Yeah, man. Well, that's you know what? I appreciate that these 2 people found the time to leave us a podcast review about such an important topic, and I hope Hardballer listens to this, just so he knows that people are thinking about him. Some of them negative, some of them positive, but I'm sure he appreciates the attention. But that's
good,
going to
yeah.
do it. Thank you for those iTunes reviews. Again, if you'd like to leave a podcast review for us, hop on over to our iTunes page and search KBMOD. And if it's 5 stars and if it looks good, if it's not filled with racial slurs or something horrific, we'll read it on the cast. So get those in for the next time. But that's going to do it for episode 306. Got the social medias here. If you want to follow KBMOD, we've got all sorts of social media properties. You can follow us on Twitter. That's where we're most active, at KBMOD Gaming. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube page, youtube.com/KBModGaming. We actually just went up and I put up a lot of the past podcasts that were missing on YouTube. So we have a playlist that is almost every podcast we've done up to this point. So if you wanna just drown yourself in old podcasts, you can now do that on our YouTube page. So hop on over there if you want to reminisce about some of that old content. We've obviously got our Twitch page, twitch.tv/KBMOD, where we do this podcast live and we do other stuff live pretty much every week. So go ahead and follow us over there. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Volition. That's VOL1TION. Got KD over here at KDZen, ZEN_. That's the character underscore.
Yes.
KDZen underscore. And we have Ying is at Yingity Yang. That's 2 Y's. Yingity Yang. I think he's that pretty much everywhere. Nice, consistent branding.
Everywhere.
Very consistent, very nice, very clean. But that's going to do it for episode 306. Thanks for hanging out with us. And hopefully we will see you back next time.
Yatta!